Good morning. My name is Gord Perks. I'm the chair of the Toronto East York Community Council. The clerk has confirmed that we have quorum present, so I'd like to now call meeting 15 to order. Welcome, everybody. This meeting is being held using the city's WebEx technology with members and staff connected by video conference or calling in. Because we are meeting remotely, we ask for your patience with any delays and technical issues, and there will be some. Members of the public can observe the meeting on YouTube. We currently have several registered speakers who have been connected to the meeting by audio. Welcome. I would like to request that staff keep their video turned off unless they are needed for speaking or answering questions. This will make it easier for me as chair to see those watching on, and for those watching on YouTube to observe the members of the committee as they participate in the debate on each item and during votes. I also ask that all members and staff keep their microphones on mute unless you need to answer a question or speak. If any members do wish to speak on an item, please make sure your video is on and raise your hand or unmute your mic and indicate your intention to speak, and I will create a speakers list. When voting, I ask that members make sure that your video is turned on and raise your hands to indicate your vote. Members, I want to remind you that although we are participating remotely, you must still submit your motions in writing to the clerk. The clerk's staff are available by email at teycc@toronto.ca. I just want to underscore that. I'm in the committee room here. It's like being on the deck of a very strange starship. Everyone's scattered around the room staring at screens. They really do need you to give your motions in well in advance. The chair and members gratefully acknowledge that the Toronto East York Community Council meets on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. So I want to begin by asking if any members have any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. If you do have an interest, please raise your hand and unmute your microphone. I don't see any. I need a motion to confirm the minutes of our last meeting, March 12th, 2020. Councillor Bradford. Thank you. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. Okay, that passes. Okay, we are now going to do our agenda run through. The first item that is not timed and does not have any deputations listed is item TE 15.14. I'm not going to be my usual race through the agenda self here, so I'll give you a minute to find TE 15.14 in your agendas. It's appointments to Business Improvement Area Boards of Management, and we have recommendations here for wards 9, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Is Councillor Wong-Tam, are you moving the motion? Yes?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
All those in favor? Opposed? None? That carries. Thank you very much. Item TE 15.15, 340-376R Dufferin Street and 2 Melbourne Avenue, official plan and zoning amendment applications preliminary report. I don't see any deputants listed for this item, so I'm going to move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Item TE 15.16, 109 to 125 George Street and 231 Richmond Street East, official plan and zoning amendment applications preliminary report. Councillor Wong-Tam.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I would like to move the recommendations in the report, but also along with an amendment, and the clerks can put that on the screen. And essentially, we're setting out from the onset to create a site plan working group prior to the issuance of the final site plan approval.
Okay, if we'll just give the moment for the clerks to be able to find that. That's item 1516. just everyone take a moment to familiarize themselves with Councillor Wong Tam's motion? Okay. I think maybe we can call the vote now. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. Item TE 15.17, 2720 and to 2734 Danforth Avenue Zoning Amendment Application Preliminary Report. Councillor Bradford.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. I don't know if this is still necessary, but a quick motion to expand the notice of community consultation meeting.
Okay, members, I'm going to ask, even for a motion that's fairly standard, please send them well in advance. There's a whole process of getting it to one of the Starship crew here, who has to then send it to another one of the Starship crew, and then we have to get it up on the screen.
If staff don't have it ready yet.
Okay, if we're not ready, we'll hold the item down and come back to it later. Thank you. Item TE 15.18, construction staging area, Holly Street and Dunfield Avenue, 25 Holly Street and 44 Dunfield Avenue. Councillor Motlow.
Mr. Chair, can I confirm if the clerk has my motion?
Okay, we'll just pull that up.
Okay, so assuming that the clerk has it.
Councillor Motlow, we have two motions on this, I believe. Did you submit two motions?
Yes.
So two is correct? Okay, so we'll post each of them so the members can see them?
Thank you. So to be upfront, I consider this sort of a tweak in an insurance policy if it does get approved at council. But on principle, I'm not going to support the overall motion itself because I don't agree with the developer occupying the public realm.
No, this is not the correct one. Just a moment, please. Councillor Motlow, we're about to post your motion. If you could just let me know if this is the one you want us to see.
I can't see it yet.
Yeah, it'll come up in a sec.
Okay.
Here we are.
Yes.
This is the motion you intended to move?
That's
Okay.
it. Yes.
And then you have a second one if this one fails? Is that what we're doing?
No, no, just to be clear, this is the motion that I'm moving that I think would be an improvement to what's recommended before you, but I intend to vote against. I'm going to support this obviously because I think it's an improvement if it does get approved by council, but I'm going to be voting against the entirety because in principle, with the developer occupying the public ground here.
Yeah.
My impression from the staff was he was going to give this one a shot first, and if it failed, then he would move to the other one.
Okay, Councillor Motlow, we seem to be having some miscommunication, which is perfectly fine. There's working virtually, that happens. The clerks informed me that your staff submitted two motions. This one, and then a motion which you intended to move in the event that this one did not pass. That's the instruction.
Yeah, I wasn't clear. I wasn't clear that there was the other motion coming from my staff. I thought that it was simply just a rejection. So could I see the other motion before us?
Sure. Let's put that up.
Thank you.
Sorry, Rosemary.
Okay, I think it would be wise to hold this down for the moment. I'm going to check
Okay,
with my staff.
let's do this. And for members of the public who are watching, you're now seeing what we do all those times that we go up to the clerk's chair and whisper in her ear. This is how it goes, except now it's all sort of slow motion. Okay, so we'll hold that item down. Item TE 15.19, Construction Staging Area, TTC Easier Access Program, College Station, Phase 1 and 2. Councillors Layton and Wong Tam. Which of you would like to? Okay, I saw Councillor Wong Tam first. So you're just going to move the motion. All those in favor?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move the motion, but also just to note that what the report speaks to is the closing of the eastern sidewalk and the closure of the northbound lane on Yonge Street, just south of College, and this is to allow for the long-awaited accessible access entrance points to College Station, and there will be a permanent removal of the median, which is the center aisle. This construction is going to begin almost immediately. Obviously, there will be some disruption to pedestrian activity, as well as ensuring that we can keep the neighborhood safe and debris-free while all this is taking place. But in no way is it small construction. It's not minor construction. It's heavy machinery. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to note that the community is aware that it's absolutely critical to provide the accessible access points to College Station and easier egress, and it's all about life safety systems and improvements. And at the same time, it allows us to continue our work on the renewal and the revitalization of downtown Yonge, which is underway right now with a massive transportation study, as you know it, called Yonge Tomorrow. This is environmental work that's being done to allow us to reimagine what this new Yonge Street could look like when it's time for us to put the street back together for the use of the next 75 to 100 years, which will hopefully include broader, wider sidewalks, opportunities for sidewalk animation, and now in the light of COVID-19, we know that if some of that work was done earlier, Yonge Street would be even a safer place for people to move through because of the pandemic. And I just wanted to cite that construction is happening just as soon as we adopt and approve this recommendation. They'll be mobilizing the crews very shortly. Thank you very much.
thank you. Any other members wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay.
Or we can go back to the.
I understand, Councillor Motlow, but it would be, the clerks still need a little bit of time to work with you and your staff, so we'll get back to it when at another point in the meeting.
I'll wait your
Yep.
direction.
No, we are.
Okay. Item TE 15.20, Construction Staging Area, 25 Ontario Street. Councillor Wong Tam.
Thank you very much again, Mr. Chair. I would like to move an amendment to the staff recommendations, and if the clerk can put that onto the screen.
Okay, we'll give everyone a moment to read that. Okay.
Just to summarize, it's just to strike up a construction management working group during the process.
All right then. Any other members of the committee have any comments on this one? Seeing none, I'll call the vote if I can have the screen cleared. All those in favor?
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Oh.
I think that might be the wrong motion. I think that says T 14.40. Oh, sorry, I apologize. I'm looking at the wrong screen.
Okay, so we're correct.
Yeah, I retract that, yeah.
Okay then.
Thank you.
All right. Commander Wong Tam says go ahead. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Item TE 15.21, traffic calming speed humps Dingwall Avenue. Councillor Fletcher.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just move this motion that the clerk's up. Thank you.
Okay. Everyone should have had time to glance at that by now. Ask to have the screen cleared.
The polling requirements, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. Item TE 15.22, parking amendments, Hahn Place. Councillor Cressy.
I'll move the recommendations in my letter.
Okay, moving the recommendations in Councillor Cressy's. Oh, I'm sorry?
Yeah, sorry.
So I need to introduce these? Okay, and it's 22 through 29?
Yes.
Okay. Members, I need a motion to introduce items 15.22 through 15.29 inclusive. Councillor Cressy, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Okay, we'll work through those. Now I call 15.22 parking amendments Hahn Place. Councillor Cressy, I assume you're still moving your recommendations in your letter. All those in favor, opposed, that carries. Item TE 15.23, turn restrictions, Lower Jarvis Street and the Esplanade. Councillor Cressy.
I believe the clerk's office actually has an amendment to the recs in my letter. It's a
Yes,
time
we do.
adjustment. All right, so that amendment is on the screen, so I would like to move that amendment and then in turn the rest of the recommendations.
Councillor Cressy, there only was one other recommendation, so we can just do this with one vote.
Even better.
Okay.
I will move that.
All those in favor? If I could have the screen cleared. Call that again. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Item TE 15.24, speed limit reduction Niagara Street. Councillor Cressy.
Again, I would like to move the recommendations in my letter.
All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Item TE 15.25, Councillor Cressy, who has been corresponding busily.
This is my final one, and thank you for the indulgence, members. I would like to move the recommendations in my letter.
All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Item TE 15.26, parking amendments, Barton Avenue. Councillor Layton.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll move the amendment or the motion in my letter.
All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. Item TE 15.27, traffic bylaw amendments for Essex Street. Councillor Layton.
Yes, I'll again move the recommendations in the letter. There are technical amendments from staff for to facilitate a bike lane being constructed that I can actually hear right now because it's about a block and a half away.
Okay, so to enhance your hearing, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Item TE 15.28, improvements to the intersection of Dixon Avenue and Woodbine Avenue. Councillor Bradford.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move the recommendations in my letter.
All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Item TE 15.29, road safety in the Gerrard Street, Norwood Road area. Councillor Bradford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move the recommendations in my letter, please.
All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, if members could just give me one moment. Okay, members, Councillor Motlow informs me he's prepared to deal with TE 15.818, which is construction staging area Holly Street and Dunfield Avenue, 25 Holly Street and 44 Dunfield Avenue. Councillor Motlow, if you could make it clear to the clerks how you'd like to proceed.
Yeah, thank you. So the confusion was just the motion regarding the rejection. And I just was confused about whether or not it was just going to be me voting against the whole rec itself or move a motion to like specifically reject. So there's one motion that is, I would call it like an insurance policy. In other words, if it were to pass, these are width changes that I would like to see done if it passes. So that's one motion. So in other words, it just increases the width of the sidewalk. Then the other motion is to reject the recommendations to permit the public realm occupation. So I'm going to be supporting the tweak motion to improve it, but I'm going to be voting for rejection of the recommendation itself. So those are the two items.
If I understand you, what your intention to do is to move the motion which we know as B, which amends the staff recommendation rather than rejecting them. And then your intention is to vote against the whole item. Is that correct?
Well, again, almost yes. There's a motion, rather than just voting against the whole item, there's a motion to reject the whole item.
No, I'm afraid, Councillor Motlow, we can't do it that way, because if we take a motion that amends it, then we can't take another motion on those same amended items and reject them.
I understand, by the way, I think that was my confusion about how this was framed. So I agree with you. Let's go with the just the item to amend, and then just drop the motion about rejecting, and I'll reject it on my vote by voting against the recommendations.
Okay, then.
Question for the mover, Mr. Chair.
Oh boy, this is getting exciting. Councillor Fletcher, you have questions for Councillor Motlow.
Yeah, I do. Councillor Motlow, you feel strongly about this and don't want this to happen. Are you asking us to vote with you to reject this? I'm happy to do that.
I'd appreciate that. Yes, thank you.
So, thank you.
I've just, to answer it fully, there's a history of council ultimately approving these items. So that's why if it is approved, I want to make sure that it's improved. But yeah, I would really appreciate all of your support in rejecting it.
But if it's rejected, anyway, are you talking about this community council or council? Council.
Hopefully both.
No.
Members, I want to remind you, just to be clear.
Got it.
I just need to confer with the...
Yes.
Okay, so members, just...
Are these city council reps? 18 is delegated. No, I'm sorry.
We're just...
It's delegated, right? No, it's delegated. Yeah.
Members, to be clear,
Yeah.
this is a delegated item, which means that there is no second chance of having the item go to council. The decision we take here will be the final decision. Does that clarify matters for You, Councillor Motlow?
That makes it easier. Thank you.
Okay, so if we reject the whole item, then effectively no construction staging authorization is granted, and that's the outcome you want.
Yes.
And you're asking us to support you.
Yes, in the motion.
Sorry, can I clarify?
Yes, please, Councillor Bradford, you have the floor.
Oh, sorry. I'm just trying to understand here, and I apologize if I'm lost on this. Do you want the wider sidewalks, and that's actually the outcome that you want here? Or you want nothing approved at all and no construction? Or you want to vote against it, but you would like actually the wider sidewalks to pass?
So
I know this would be easier if we were all in the same room.
You're right.
So what I would like is exactly what I'm moving, which is, let me start from the latter. I would like this to be rejected. I don't want them to occupy the public ground. If you don't agree with me and you vote to approve the recommendations, then at the very least, I'd like the amendment to be approved to improve on the recommendation. But ultimately, what I'm going to be doing, and I hope that you would agree, is to support the amendments. Again, I sort of phrased it as like an insurance policy, just in case the recommendation is approved. But ultimately, I would appreciate your support in voting against the recommendation itself to allow for the occupation.
Thank you, Councillor Motlow.
I have a question.
Can I,
Sorry.
Councillor Fletcher, before I give you the floor? I'm gonna suggest that I take a moment and ask a question of the city solicitor, who may be able to give us some advice about where we wind up in the event that this motion gets defeated, or this item gets defeated by Community Council. I believe Ms. Matsumoto is available.
Hi. Am I on screen and
Yes.
heard?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
So if I could just ask, Councillor Motlow is recommending to members of the Community Council that we defeat the recommendations, whether they're amended or not, that are in front of us, which effectively, in my understanding, means no construction staging approval will be granted, as this is a delegated authority. What are the risks and consequences of taking that decision?
Well, they wouldn't be allowed to use the public domain to construct as a construction staging area. So I suppose they'd have to figure out a way to do it on their own property or perhaps on a neighboring property. So that's the practical issue. Whether or not they take umbrage or issue with the fact that we've not allowed them to use this. I'm just being careful because I don't want to start to give what I think should be confidential advice.
Sorry, we can't hear properly. Mr. Chair.
I understand. Councillor Fletcher, I understand.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me better now?
Sorry.
Yes.
Ms. Matsumoto, if you could all just be patient and mute your microphone if you don't have the floor. It keeps the system from getting kludgy. Ms. Matsumoto, did I hear you say that there is some advice you may have to offer us in camera?
Well, I just want to be careful what I offer in public, and then maybe if there's further stuff, then yes. So I would just say in public that there may be objections or concerns raised by the proponent about whether or not they this should have been discussed. This is what the conversation is that.
So I want to make sure members heard that. The sound was a bit muddy. I believe what I heard you say is that you're being careful about what you say in public, but that the applicant here may have some rights to pursue this further. Did I hear that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, and if any further details on what those rights are required, I think that's something that we should talk about.
Right. So if members have any further questions about what the applicant's rights might be, we would need to go in camera to discuss those. Okay. Are there any further questions of either staff or Councillor Motlow? Councillor Delisle?
Yes, first to the councillor. Did you have conversations with the developer about the possibility of them having it on their property?
Yes.
And they just refused to do it, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I have questions of staff?
Go ahead.
Did staff have the conversations with the developer about the possibility of having it on their property? Are there possibilities of this happening? Is this practical?
It's through the chair. This is Nathan from Transportation Services. We did have conversation with the developer if it was feasible to stage their work on private property. However, they do not have enough room and require the public right-of-way in order to facilitate construction staging operations.
So you're saying that in order for the construction to happen, they need this. They don't have enough room on their property. Is that it?
That's correct. There's just not enough room on site.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Fletcher, you have the floor.
Yes, it's just a question to the councillor. This application, councillor, did you approve it or oppose it? Sorry, I can't hear you.
No, I'm trying to recall. It's been a while since we considered it.
I'm sorry?
I'm trying to remember whether or not this was approved at council or it was LPAT/OMB. I just don't recall at this point.
Perhaps the staff. So, in other words, did you have us turn this down? Did you have community council turn this application down, councillor?
Sorry, Councillor Fletcher. I don't have that information in front of me.
Perhaps I can hear from the. I'm just interested in the pathway here.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Fletcher, I'll see if I can find someone on staff to answer your question. So the question was...
I believe it went to the...
Councillor Motlow, I'm going to see if I can get a staff answer. The question was, the application at Holly and Dunfield Avenue, was this something that City Council approved, or was this something that was approved by the OMB or the LPAT? Does anyone know
Yes,
that?
and I'm just, sorry, Speaker, Mr. Chair, what community council did as well. I'm just trying to figure out because...
Okay, and I will ask for that information as well.
I'll be clear why, because perhaps it shouldn't have been approved in that way because obviously the right-of-way can't be used here. So it's just thinking ahead as to how that's...
Let's just see if there's anyone on staff who...
I'm just clear with staff what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Chair. This is Oren Samir speaking.
Hello, Oren.
Hi. I wasn't involved personally as well, but it's my recollection that I believe this was a mediated settlement at the Ontario Municipal Board.
So it was a mediated settlement?
Yes, it was an appeal of a non-decision.
It was an appeal of a non-decision, and the city solicitor, under their had delegated instructions and reached a settlement. Is that correct?
That's my recollection.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fletcher, does that help you? Councillor Fletcher?
It's been a very difficult application for the community and the council.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any further questions of staff or of Councillor Motlow? No? Anyone to speak? No? Okay. So first we will call Councillor Matlow's proposed amendments. We can have those up.
And by the way, may I ask for a recorded vote, Mr. Chair?
You most certainly can. I will call the roll. Okay, if I give everyone a moment to read that. Okay. Councillor Motlow, do you want these two amendments taken together? It seems to me that should be fine. Yes? Okay. So on the two amendments, I'm going to call the roll. I'll just call you in the order that I see you. Councillor Delisle, how do you vote? I have to ask you to unmute your microphone.
Sorry about that. In favor.
Councillor Wong Tam.
In favor.
Councillor Cressy.
In favor.
Councillor Layton.
In favor.
Councillor Motlow.
In favor?
Councillor Fletcher.
Favor, Mr. Chair.
In favor, and I'm in favor as well. Okay, so on the item as...
I'm also in favor, Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Bradford. The video images on my screen keep jumping around, and you were showing such good microphone discipline that you jumped off the main screen. I apologize. Okay. All right. So now we will take the vote on the item as amended. Okay. This is whether or not we approve a construction management plan at all. Everyone have that clear? Some of you are frowning. Okay. All right, we're all good. All right, so I will call the roll. Councillor Bradford, are you in favor of the item?
Yep.
Okay. Councillor Delisle?
In favor.
Thank you. Councillor Motlow?
Against.
Against. Councillor Cressy?
In favor.
Thank you. Councillor Wong Tam?
Opposed.
Opposed. Okay. Councillor Layton?
Opposed.
Opposed. Councillor Fletcher?
I'm going to support Councillor Motlow. Opposed.
You're opposed? Okay, and the chair is also opposed. So sorry, one moment. So that loses, so the item loses, 3 in favor, 5 opposed. So Community Council has taken no decision on this item. Okay.
Thank you.
Guys, that's just way too much to do virtually, okay? You're going to break me here.
Good job, everybody. That was hard.
Yeah,
Chair, job.
okay. All right. So,
That's why we're paying the big bucks, Councillor Perks. That's why we're paying.
I believe we get the same bucks, Councillor Fletcher. So,
Mr. Chair, just as a point of order before we just turn the page on this motion, would it be possible to have staff at our next meeting address the legal issues in camera that our solicitor mentioned? I personally would like a briefing on it. I didn't think it would be useful now, but I think having something might be useful. I've got one of these that I would really love just to not have plug up Balmuto, and I know Councillor Wong Tam knows about that street and managing construction staging on it, and I would really like to know what the implications are.
Mr. Chair, I
Thank you.
concur. Mr. Chair, I concur with what Councillor Layton has just said, and I'm wondering actually if the staff can prepare us their legal opinion in writing and circulate that on
Members,
paper or
I have a
virtual
suggestion.
paper.
Members, I have a suggestion. Given the difficulty of introducing new business virtually right this minute, what I would suggest, and staff are aware, is that a member of council, and I'm going to suggest Councillor Layton because he raised it, write a letter to the committee requesting a confidential briefing on the issues arising from refusing construction management plans under our delegated authority That way there will be public notice given that we intend to debate that, and the staff will have an opportunity to prepare some advice from us. Councillor Layton, can I ask you to undertake that?
Yes, I would happily defer that though to Councillor Motlow if, because he's led this file along with Councillor Wong-Tam, I believe, for many years.
Okay.
I'll write the letter.
Tell you what, I trust you guys to work this out. I trust you guys to work this out.
Mike, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, I will. Thanks.
Okay, so Councillor Layton, I expect some correspondence to the committee clerk and myself sometime in the next few days or weeks. Well, days is better, so that staff can have some time to prepare some in-camera advice for us at our next community council meeting. Okay, thank you. So, members of the public who've been waiting to make deputations on the items on the agenda, it's coming around to your turn. We are now going to consider item TE 15.15, which is 1467 Bathurst Street, zoning amendment final report. 15.1, yes. Okay, I have 4 deputants listed. First, Tom Giancos. Tom, I hope I pronounced your name right. If you could turn your microphone on. Are you with us, Tom?
I'm with you, if you can hear me, Councillor.
Okay, so Tom, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see a clock, but I will give you a heads up when you've got about 30 seconds left. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Perks. I'm going to be very brief. I just want to start off by thanking SIPO, Oren, James, and Ran in Urban Design, as well as Sarah and City Legal. They've been great to work with throughout this entire process. This project has been evolving over the course of a few years. We've had over 10 meetings, both public meetings, steering committees, and meetings in private with various residents. We participated in a planning framework study, and that was done for the area under Councillor Matlow's guidance, and we used that as a framework to develop and design the site. The project provides an on-site daycare. It provides an on-site senior center. It has an affordable housing component. Through discussions and negotiations with city staff and the community, we're providing a public park and an additional POPs that represent over 40% of the site. And if you know the site, there's an existing approval for a massive 25-story tower and a large podium. And what we're proposing is I think a vast improvement to that, where the majority of the site is publicly accessible open space. I just want to say we support the recommendations by staff. We understand the councillor has some motions that he wishes to pass, and we have no issue, and we support those motions. And we also have received and reviewed some of the letters sent in by the residents. And what we'll say is that, as we've illustrated in the past, we will continue to work with the community during the site plan approval process to further address any technical questions or concerns that they may have. We have a presentation, and if Councillor Motlow and anyone else on Community Council wishes, we're happy to make that presentation. Otherwise, I'd just like to say again, thank you to city staff, and that's it for me.
Thank you. Tom, and just so you're aware, and that others are aware, it is unfortunately a little bit beyond our technical capacity right now to display your presentation for members. When you do submit the presentation, it is circulated to members of council and attached to the item. So it's available for us to look at, but I won't be able to display it for members of the public to follow along if you choose to do that. Okay? Thank you. Are there any questions of the deputant? Councillor Fletcher, you're sideways. I can't tell. No questions. Okay. Thank you. There you go. The next deputant I have listed is Adam Brown. Adam, are you with us?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of council. And my comments are ditto to that of Tom. I have nothing to add but to thank everyone for all their involvement. It's been a fantastic public process, and thank the councillor and the staff in his office and all of planning and urban design and legal staff. I have nothing to add. It's been a great process.
Thank you. Any questions for Adam? Seeing none. Marcia Gilbert. Is Marcia with us?
Yes.
Marcia, go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you to the councillors and staff. I'm with the South Forest Hill Residents Association. We were involved with this process right from the get-go. When our first meeting was at St. Mike's. And I just want to go on the record. The South Forest Hill Residents Association is in support of the development, especially good development. And when we started the process, the proposal was for 3 towers at 30 stories each. And it was
Marcia, if I could ask you just to hold on for a second. Your audio is a tiny bit laggy. Can I ask you to speak slowly and clearly so that we can hear you a bit better?
Okay, I will try to do that. So I don't know where I left you in terms of what I was saying. What I was saying was that at the beginning of this process, the proposal was for 3 towers, 30 stories each. And in case you didn't hear my introductory comment, the South Forest Hill Residents Association is in support of development, good development, responsible development. And it was an exciting process to work with the staff and the community in envisioning what this space could look like. So the original plan was for 3 30-story towers. And given that it's at the corner of 2 main streets, it made total sense to have a high-density area. And through these discussions, we, as a community, proposed that there should, and their rental units, that there should be low-income housing available or rent geared to income, and that they should be integrated throughout the complex. And we were looking at 25% of those suites to be rent geared to income. And what we're looking at is a much reduced opportunity. We also were talking about a social community hub similar to the Davisville hub that would include a swimming pool, a recreational area, facilities for seniors, and a daycare. What it seems that we have now is that the daycare, there's 513 square feet, which is a rather small space for a daycare. I'm sorry, meters, 513 square meters. And what we're also looking at is a community space that has 419 square feet, square meters, and 45 on a different level. So this does not address the local community needs about having a social service hub, because that's a pretty small space, given that they were given an extra 6 stories to one of the towers. There was also, and I mean, I think that in the age of respiratory pandemics, that's why we're not sitting at City Hall, but here in our own homes, we need to be looking at ensuring that there is wide sidewalks, and the sidewalk that is proposed on Bathurst is quite narrow, given that there is a bus stop on that in that area. And when you're adding these number of suites, you're going to have a lot of pedestrians, and therefore it's a very narrow area, especially because it's a bus stop, as well as you have garbage cans and little trees So it's a very narrow area, and I can tell you that when the community walks along those streets, it is quite problematic. The other item that we should be looking at is, again, because of COVID situation, is the parking arrangement. Now, we want to encourage the use of public transit, and we're really happy to hear that there is a corridor that's being proposed in this proposal. But St. Mike's does have a huge parking lot now that is filled, and will the parking needs be adequately served there? There was also some concern, two other big concerns, and one was the safety for pedestrians in the
Marcia, can I ask, Marcia, I'm sorry to interrupt. You're just a little over your time now. Can I ask you to wrap up with a final thought?
Okay, so the concern that we have is in terms of safety and that the space served the local community. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Next, I have listed Shalom Schachter. Pardon me?
Good morning, members of the committee. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Shalom, you'll have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I want to speak about two items. One is affordable housing, and the other is the impact of...
Shalom, I'm sorry, our sound setup here is quite poor. Can I ask you to speak very slowly and clearly? Go ahead. Oh, we seem to have lost you.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Can
can.
you hear me?
Please speak slowly and clearly.
I have two concerns. One is affordable housing. The other is the impact of COVID-19. This development makes me question the seriousness of the city's commitment to solve our housing crisis. You've heard already that the proposal goes beyond the 25 stories, beyond 30 stories, with one tower, 36 stories, and the base is also going to increase. Only 2% of the units are designated as affordable housing. It should be much larger, 25%. Affordable is not defined. It should be made clear that this is rent geared to income. The duration of rental protection is limited to 25 years, while the other amenities are for 99 years. There's no reason why it shouldn't be for 99 years as well. Similarly, the duration of affordable rent is limited to 15 years. That also should be 99 years. There is going to be grouping of these units, and that can lead to stigmatization. So these should not be contiguous. They should be spread out in the building. And while there is guarantees to access to all the external amenities outside the suites, there should be greater protection to ensure that these units will have the same internal amenities in terms of units finishes. The size of the affordable units is 6 single, 8 2-bedroom, and 6 3-bedroom. I think we should be concerned more about space for families, so there should only be 2 singles, 9 doubles, and 9 3-bedroom units. And finally, in terms of the overall building, only 10% of the units are going to be 3-bedroom units. If we really want to have housing for families, we should restrict the number of single bed units to 10%, 60% should be 2-bedroom units, and 30% should be 3-bedroom units. Finally, I'd like to address some COVID-19 issues. We are still in the midst of COVID-19 in Toronto. Tall buildings require use of elevators, and that's no longer safe, and climbing stairs for tall buildings can be exhausting. So if there's going to be such tall towers, there need to be more elevators, larger elevators, and some kind of exhaust fan to remove airborne contaminants. Furthermore, in terms of the parking, there is not even one parking spot per unit. And while on the one hand, we support public transportation, given COVID-19, we suspect that there'll be far less willingness to use public transportation and more people will be needing to drive automobiles, and so there needs to be more parking. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them.
Thank you so much for your deputation. Are there any questions of the deputant? I don't see any. Thank you. So we'll bring it into committee now. Are there any questions of staff? I don't see any. To speak, Councillor Motlow.
Councillor, I just want to I have a couple of questions.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Delisle. Because there are so many staff in on the call, I don't always have the councillors nicely grouped so I can see them. So Councillor Delisle, you have questions of staff?
Yep.
Members, sorry, Councillor Delisle, sorry. I've had a request from a member of the public to make a deputation on this item. Susan, are you with us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Could you just introduce yourself?
Sorry, my name is Susan Reisler, and I've been a participant in this process.
Thank you, Susan. I'll give you 5 minutes to make a deputation, and as I've asked the other deputants, please speak slowly and clearly.
Thank you. I'm only going to echo what has been said, especially to thank all the people that have been a part of this process, including Councillor Mahevich, who was there at the beginning and no longer with us, and also the city staff who've worked really hard on this project with the developers. I echo what the last two speakers, Marcia and I think it was Shlomo, had to say about what's not in the project, and I still think it's not finished and should not be approved at this point. I think the issue with affordable housing is extremely important, and I can't understand why there's a 25-year time limit on making these units available and only 15 years guaranteeing affordable rent. That seems to me cruel, and I hope you'll change that. Also, I agree with the size. Given what we gave away in terms of height and density, I think the size of what we got in terms of the daycare and the community space isn't fair, basically. I think the fact that they're there is terrific. I think we can argue that the space should be larger. So I hope before you approve this, because that's where we're at, I hope you'll consider what we've said, because I suspect that the voices here today actually are much louder, and a lot of people who have been coming to the meetings just aren't here today to make the same points. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the deputant? I don't see any. Councillor Delisle, you had some questions of staff?
Yeah. I just.
As do I, Mr. Chair.
I've been hearing the deputants, and I just want us staff to clarify a little bit how these community benefits come to play, because we are in a world that we still don't have inclusionary zoning as much as we wanted to have more affordable housing. So with the tools that we have, and I believe that this development, the tools that were used here was basically Section 37, and given the many needs in the community, you divide it in this way. Is that how you came up with this community benefits package? Planning?
Hi, sorry. This is Asipa Mapengo, the senior planner on the file. Yes, that's correct, Councillor. We looked at the community benefits as a whole, looking to get different pieces that would help the community. Also, all these different pieces were requested by the community, seen as a need. And so we felt that by incorporating all of these different pieces, that we were really putting forth and creating a complete community.
So you have basically a Section 37, a monetary value that is awarded to the project, and then working with the community and the local councillor, you kind of come up with the different priorities and try to make the most out of the money, the funds that you have, correct?
Yes, that is
Did
correct.
you have any other tools that we can use through the Planning Act, right? This is a planning application through the Planning Act. Did you have any other tools other than the Section 37 right now to bring community benefits to the table?
No, we used we used Section 37 to negotiate these benefits for the community.
Okay, those are my questions.
Thank you. Councillor Motlow, you had some questions? Councillor Motlow, your microphone, please.
Thank you. Sort of to pick up where Councillor Bailao left off. So we don't have inclusionary zoning yet to be able to demand that a certain percentage of the units would be affordable. And is it not also true that you've advised that while we might want to get a 99-year agreement, that isn't possible? Could you speak to those 2 points?
Sorry, you cut out on me. If you could repeat that, please.
Could you speak to the tools that we have or don't have with regard to inclusionary zoning to demand what we want from the developer with regard to the number of affordable units? And then also speak to why we don't have a 99-year agreement on the ones that we did achieve.
I'll speak to the inclusionary zoning. I'll leave the 99-year lease for my colleague in housing. No, we don't have inclusionary zoning powers yet. Again, we are hoping to get that from the province. So the affordable housing was part of the Section 37 negotiation. And again, we did feel affordable housing was important. And as you know, Councillor, we insisted that we get some along with all the other benefits, and I think we're happy with what we were able to get in terms of the fulsome package. And I'll give it to my colleague in housing, Graham.
Thank you.
Good morning. Everyone hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you, Graham.
Okay. Great, thank you. So through the chair, when we negotiate for affordable housing using a Section 37 contribution, there's a bit of a trade-off between the number of units we can secure and the length of affordability that we can secure. Traditionally, we've looked to secure for 15 years. It's sort of been the city standard approach over the past couple of years. So that was the approach we took with this project. We're certainly starting to look at opportunities to secure longer periods of affordability, especially where directed by the councillor. But in this case, excuse me, we went with the standard approach of 15 years based on our conversations with the applicant and community planning staff.
So your concern is that we would have had actually fewer units if it would have had to be a trade-off one way or another.
Yeah, we have securing a longer affordability period dips into the applicant's expected revenue for a longer period of time. So as a result, we can take fewer units. A longer affordability period essentially costs that applicant more. And since we're using Section 37, which we have a quantum of money to spend or quantum of money that can be worth, there is that trade-off between number of units and length of affordability, since both of those will reduce the revenue for the applicant.
Thank you. And then just the last question to the planner. Could you speak to the consultative process with respect to the working group meetings that we held, and then also the last large community meeting back in the days when we were able to meet in a room? The feedback that you heard from the community when we discussed sort of where we were going with this. Do you believe that the final package, albeit the restrictions that we have because we don't have all the tools that we want, but where we arrived, at the risk of losing more at the LPAD, do you believe that it reflects what you heard?
What the applicant had said that it was an extensive community engagement process is correct. It started at the very beginning of the application, and it formed into small working groups. There were those working groups on different topics.
Sipo, we keep losing you for various moments.
If you can just give me one moment, I'll see what we can do about that.
There were
Can I ask, we seem to be having trouble with Sipo's connection. Can I ask Linda McDonald, are you available to maybe try to answer some of these questions?
Mr. Chair, it's Oren Tamir here.
Oh, hi, Oren.
Manager for that section. Hi.
Oh, okay, sorry,
Back again.
my bad. Oren, can you maybe try to answer Councillor Matlow's questions?
large
Thanks, Oren.
I still hear Sipo's voice there, but I'll just jump in because of the technical difficulties. I wasn't present for the last meeting, but I know even after all of the negotiations were complete, it was taken back to the community to demonstrate all the progress that had been made on this application with the increased size of the sidewalks, the public realm, the on-site park, unencumbered, the pop space, the senior center, the daycare, and then finally we also stretched it to include the affordable housing component to make sure it was a fulsome suite, and that was taken back and shown to the community.
Thank you.
Does that satisfy you, Councillor?
It's good as it's fine. Thank you for your response, Oren.
Okay. Are there any further questions of staff? No, seeing none. Councillor Matlow, speak.
Okay, thank you. So I want to begin by saying that concerns that anyone would raise with regard to not enough affordable housing in most any building that's built in Toronto, I think would be reasonable, and I agree with them. I know that Councillor Bailão and everybody else here feels the same way. That's the very reason why we've all been advocating for inclusionary zoning and having the tools from the province to actually be able to not just sort of have to negotiate or try to get anything we can, but to be able to just say, no, that's our policy and you have to stick with it to the developer. But that's not the reality today. It's a lot of negotiation. Going back to the 90s on this site, there had already been an OMB approval, as was said earlier, of a massive hulking development that ate up most of any of the public realm there. It would have been an awful development if it had been constructed. But the reality is, unlike other development discussions where you have sort of more of a blank slate or a canvas to work from, on this one, because of that approval, it wasn't so much whether or not there was going to be something big constructed, but it was a matter of sort of moving the Play-Doh around, so to speak, so that it could be much better than what could have been quite awful. But nonetheless, the owner of the property has permissions going back to the 90s to build something without coming to us for any further approvals. So through a long series of working group meetings with members of the community and staff, and Councillor Mihevik initially, and then myself as I became the councillor for the neighborhood, a lot of work was done to try to make this a lot better and try to make it something that will leave the community better than they found it. And I'll be, candid with you. The heights are too much for me. It's still too big for my liking personally. I don't, if we didn't have the LPAT, otherwise known as the OMB over our heads, it would be really easy just to kind of go, that's too much. You got to do this and that, etc. The reality is that we risk losing all the gains that we made if we just do something that looks and sounds good, but isn't honest, considering the reality in front of us. The reality is, someone earlier mentioned about the sidewalks. The sidewalk on Bathurst is going to be double the minimum at 5 meters, and I believe 16 meters setback on St. Clair. It does consider improving a public space. As Oren Tamir said, we now have what we didn't have before. We now have truly remarkable amount of space on the ground for a Pops Park, along with the mid-block connection that will connect the neighborhood, and a childcare facility. And we even got a senior center, which wasn't even on the table when we last negotiated, and we got it. And I appreciate the developer agreeing with it. And then I want to give our planners credit that they said, like, why don't we do like an 11th hour, just, last shot to even get some, if not enough, but some affordable housing, because it's something that was a priority to me and them. And we asked for it. And yeah, of course, I'd love to get so much more than we got, but I also know that we got more than they had to give us. And, we need the policy from the province to be able to back us up when we ask for more. All in all, is this exactly the development that I would want? No. Have we made incredible improvements? And am I willing on behalf of the community to risk losing all of those improvements and benefits at an LPAD hearing? No, that's not the right thing to do. It's not honest, and it's not sincere with, it's not being honest with the community about really what the question is. The question is not whether or not something will be developed here. It's a matter of, do we have something awful or something far better? And we've achieved that. And in fact, I think in many cases on the ground level, it could be quite wonderful on the ground level. Now, the Casa Loma residents and I are going to be working very closely on a number of the traffic related issues. You may be interested to know that there is the ability to stage this construction on site rather than going on to St. Clair and Bathurst. And that's something that we are going to be adamant about. And we're going to be working as a community to address sort of the granular issues as we approach site plan. But ultimately, I'm very grateful for the work that our working group did. And when we went out to the community, it was so thoughtful and so honest and creative. And the culmination of all these efforts is what we see today. And I'm really proud of the community for addressing the reality of what's in front of us and then trying to make it, work for so many people where we have not had childcare and a senior center and the public space and all these improvements that we made before. So I'm really proud of the community, and I'm really happy to represent them on this issue. And I think that we made it a great advance. Thank you. But I also have a motion, by the way, to...
Oh, Councillor Motlow, it would be so much easier if you told us that at the start.
I thought I had, but I did it very quickly.
Okay, if we can just ask the clerk. So the clerks have divided the various pieces that you sent to them into 2 motions. So we'll put them up one at a time. So the first series is a group of amendments to the recommendations from staff.
Yeah.
Okay, if members just want to digest that. Okay, and can I have the second piece, which are some additions to the recommendations from staff? Okay. Are there any questions of Councillor Motlow? If I could have the main screen back. I see no questions. Does anyone else wish to speak? Members, can I take the whole thing as a package? We're agreeable to that? Yeah? Okay. So all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. Okay, so we now move to item TE 15.2, number 1 through number 11 Delisle Avenue and 1496 to 1510 Yonge Street. Official plan and zoning bylaw amendment application, final report. I have a number of deputants listed. First, I have Darren Lee. Darren, are you with us? Darren, we've connected you by audio. Have you got your microphone unmuted on your computer or your device? So I'm not hearing from Darren. I will move to the next listed deputant, Carol Burnham and William John Cook. Are you deputing? Are either of them available? Carol and or William, could you connect your microphone on your computer or device?
Chair, can you tell us how many deputants there are on various issues, please? Because
Just a moment, Councillor Fletcher. I'm trying to work something through. I will get back to you. Councillor Fletcher, if we could just have your off, I'm trying to see if I can hear a deputant. No? So we don't have Carol or William? Was this document circulated to members of council?
It's
Posted with the agenda? Okay. Councillor Fletcher, for your ease of reference, if you look at the meeting documents that are available to you, the list of deputants on this and every item that we will be considering is part of that. On this item, we have 4 listed, but we're having some trouble. Carol is connected?
just tell at the beginning. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Carol. You're connected
Hi.
now. I have you and William Cook listed together. Is it just you?
Yes, it's just me.
Okay. Then I'm going to offer you 5 minutes, and I'm going to ask you please to speak slowly and clearly. The audio in the committee room here is a little bit muddy.
Okay. Our concern was about the height of the proposed development at 1 Delisle. We live at 10 Delisle, which is directly across from this development. And for those of you who are not familiar with this street, it is a street of condominium buildings, all of which are between 15 and 18 stories high. The proposed development at 1 Delisle, directly across the street, is for a building of 44 stories high. So 3 times the height of our building at 10 Delisle. Our board, our condominium board, withdrew the support for the development application in March 2020. The other issue is that not only is the street a street of buildings which are about 15 stories high, St. Clair and Yonge itself, it does not have an office building higher than about 20 stories. So this new development would be completely outside of the traditional development in the area. My understanding also is that Yonge and St. Clair is not a designated growth area in the city. So I wonder why, excuse me, I wonder why that height is being considered. Also, 10 Delisle is probably the most interesting and attractive building architecturally on the street. So if you put a tower of 44 stories directly opposite, it is definitely going to diminish 10 Delisle and make it seem quite insignificant. The members of our board wrote to you previously, or wrote to the committee, objecting to the height and urging city planner and Councillor Motlow to approach the developer to see whether any further reduction in height could be achieved. I really feel that developers should not be able to bully their way into residential neighborhoods and insist that what they want to do is the only way to go. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for your deputation. Are there any questions of the deputant? Okay. Okay. I don't see any questions. I understand that Darren Lee has managed to connect. Darren, are you there?
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Darren, please go ahead. You have 5 minutes. Before you start, I'm just going to ask, please speak slowly and clearly. The sound quality is less than perfect.
It's more of a point of order, Mr. Chairman. I understand this item is being deferred perhaps for 1 month until the July meeting by Councillor Motlow. If that's the case, I'll reserve my 5 minutes for next month.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't aware of that. So yes, there is an intention to defer. And Darren, we'll make sure that you're notified when it returns to Community Council and you have an opportunity to speak then.
Great, much appreciated.
Thank you. Next I have listed Karen Gilberg.
Good morning.
Good morning, Karen. You have 5 minutes. Please speak slowly and clearly so that we can hear you well.
Thank you. I would also like to defer until the next meeting, since
Okay.
I also understand it will be deferred.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Next, I have listed Benjamin Hoff. Benjamin, are you with us?
Thank you, members of council. I would also wish to defer to the next community council meeting.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. We'll make sure you're notified. That completes the list of deputants that I have. I understand, Councillor Motlow, your intention is to defer this. Perhaps you could put that motion in front of us now.
The clerk would do so, yeah. Thank you. I'll just speak to it for a moment. We have been meeting as a working group that I struck for a long time now with representatives of all the nearby buildings to negotiate and work with the applicant and to try to improve this development. We are very concerned as a community about the impact that this building would have on the site and the neighbors directly adjacent to it and the larger Deer Park neighborhood. But also there is great anxiety in the neighborhood regarding the Whittington site across the street on Yonge and really just where this development is heading us with respect to the level of intensification in the neighborhood. The neighborhood, by the way, is not anti all development. There is recognition that Yonge and St. Clair is, it once was far more vibrant before developers started, buying piece by piece and then really not allowing for sort of many long-term leases because they were interested in acquiring enough properties to redevelop eventually. So there is an interest in the community to have a renaissance, and we're working on that in many ways, including public art. But this is incredibly concerning for the neighborhood. So we are working in a thoughtful way as a community to try to address it in a meaningful way. And the reason that we want to defer it for one more cycle is because we were actually about to do that at a typical type of town hall format before the world went sideways and the pandemic struck. So we haven't had an opportunity to do that. In other words, the working group's working, but it hasn't had a chance to go back out to their neighbors and say, do we have a mandate from you to support where the working group is trying to arrive at? And so we are going to organize reluctantly, because I do prefer in-person meetings, as I think we all do, obviously, but it's the reality of our situation, sort of like a WebEx type of meeting. It'll, as many people as possible will be able to join. We'll record it as well, because there also is a demographic and, others in the community that find this technology challenging. So I'd want it recorded so that people could view it on YouTube, for example, even if they didn't join the WebEx meeting itself, and with a common post drop. So we'll work with staff on that. But I think, the last thing I would just want to mention is that all of us are having to reimagine now what consultation with our communities look like at a time when we can't do what is natural for politicians and community, which is to come together and consult and discuss and have that extemporaneous type of dialogue, which is more challenging in this two-dimensional format. So we'll see how that goes, but we're going to do our best. And then we'll come back and hopefully have had a functional meeting without too many technical challenges and hear the views of the community about where this is going. So thank you.
Thank you. So members, before we vote, I just wanted to make you aware that you were able to see that motion because Lieutenant Commander Ellen Devlin was running between two workstations and the hand sanitizer station the whole time Councillor Motlow was talking. So we have a motion to defer. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay. That takes us to item TE 15.3, 980, 982, 984, 986, and 990 Bloor Street West, and 756 Dovercourt Road, rental housing demolition application, final report. We do have a deputant, Caitlin Allen. Caitlin, are you with us? Pardon me? Caitlin, could you please connect your microphone on your computer or your device? No? We've turned on our end, Caitlin. If you're there, could you make sure that you've connected your microphone? Sorry, Caitlin, I'm going to have to move along. Are there any questions of staff on this item? I don't see any, so to speak, it's... I'm not even sure. Who's the councillor for Ward 9? Councillor Delisle, who is away from her video. Councillor Delisle, I see you. Councillor Delisle, I'm going to text her. Councillor Delisle. Councillor Delisle. Oh, man. Anna, your item's up. Councillor Delisle, item 3, there are no questions of staff. There were no deputants.
Nope, approve staff recommendations.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. All right. Well, that was kind of wacky. The next item is TE 15.4, 601, 603, and 605 Oakwood Avenue, official plan amendment, zoning bylaw application, rental housing demolition, and site plan control applications, request for direction report. I have no deputants registered. Are there any questions of staff? Seeing none, Councillor Motlow.
I support the direction staff are recommending.
Okay, on the staff recommendations, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Item TE 15.5, 409 Front Street East, part lot control, exemption application, final report. I have no deputants listed. Are there any questions of staff? I don't see any. Councillor Wong Tam.
Thank you. I'd like to move the staff recommendations.
Okay, on the staff recommendations, all those in favor, opposed, carried. That takes us to item TE 15.6, 71 through 81, which is formerly 71 through 73, Salter Street, part lot control exemption application, final report. I have no deputants listed. Are there any questions of staff? I don't see any. Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll move the staff recommendations.
On the staff recommendations, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Item TE 15.7, application to remove a private tree, 127 Willow Avenue. I have a deputant listed here, but I've mislaid my deputation sheet. No, I haven't. I have two deputants listed here. Melanie Dulot. Melanie, if you could make sure that the microphone is turned on your computer or device. Melanie, are you there? Melanie, you are connected. If we're not hearing you though, and that is because you're muted at your end. Melanie, on the left-hand side of your screen, there is a gray circle. Could you please click that or tap it to connect your audio?
Hello.
Hi, Melanie. We've done it. Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you so much to our staff for getting that worked out with you. There's a lot of behind the scenes that happens. Okay, so Melanie, we're going to give you 5 minutes. The sound quality is quite echoey in the room where I am, so if I could ask that you speak slowly and clearly, that would be very helpful.
Okay, thank you. It's Melanie Dulos. I am here with my husband, Rahel Dulos. We are the owners of the tree at 127 Willow Avenue. So thank you, Mr. Chair, members of council, for listening to us today. I'm just going to direct you to the attachment 15.7.3. I'm going to take you briefly through this presentation to give you our rationale on why we've requested the removal. So starting off on slide 2, before we submitted the permit for removal, we did not want to get the tree removed, so we explored other options first. We first contacted not far from the tree to see if they could harvest the fruit from this black walnut tree because it was causing some issues with safety. But unfortunately, due to the location of the tree, it's right near some very steep stairs and a slope. They can't harvest because there's no safe area to place their ladder. Secondly, we spoke with experts about using fertilizer to inhibit fruiting, but from what we were told from them, it's unlikely to be effective due to the age of the tree and that it would only slightly inhibit fruiting and not eliminate the problem. And pruning also was an issue due to the proximity to hydro wires and, again, difficult to access the entire tree as it's quite large. Moving on to slide 3, the main reason why we're asking to remove it is a safety concern. The tree is located very close to steep stairs at our house, a steep concrete staircase, and it's also on a slope. So it causes a significant tripping hazard due to these golf ball sized black walnuts that are scattered all over the staircase. We have 2 small children, aged 3 and 6, and they've already fallen several times due to these walnuts. Despite our best efforts in keeping it clear, it's just not possible to stay on top of it all the time. In 2 instances, luckily, I was able to catch my 3-year-old before she rolled completely down into the street. So it was scary, but I was able to prevent it, which made us start to think we need to look at making this more safe. I'll direct you now to slide 5 as I discuss some of the details about it. That is a photo of the tree, and it shows you the proximity to the steep staircase that I'm referring to, as well as the slope. So as you can see, it's a concrete staircase with approximately 18 stairs. It's very close to the tree. So it's dangerous for anyone who's coming in and out of our house due to the debris on the stairs. Again, we try to clear it as much as possible, but the reality is we cannot be outside all the time. And, you know, with couriers and visitors and grandparents visiting on a regular basis, it's very dangerous. We also installed a huge handrail to try to help that if anyone were to trip and fall. But again, it's still something that we worry about pretty much every day at this house when the walnuts are falling. Slide 6 also shows, again, the proximity to the house as well as the
Melanie, we seem to have lost you. We're still good at our end? Yeah? So Melanie, if there's a problem, it's at your end. Could you check your computer or device? So I had Melanie and her husband listed, although at the start of her deputation, she said her husband was with her. I had no other deputants listed. Are there any questions of staff?
Might I suggest, Mr. Chair, it's Mike here, that we hold the matter down, if that's possible, until, that we might reestablish connection with Melanie, understanding that like something that impacts that impacts their life on a daily basis.
Continue to cause buckling.
Hang on.
Which makes it even more dangerous.
Melanie.
Slide 8.
Melanie. So we lost you for about 30 seconds.
I just want to make sure I'm able to, hopefully you can still hear me.
Yes.
Moving on to slide 9, we're willing, can you guys still hear me? I just love a nod or something to know. Okay, great. Sorry, our screen went dark, so I wasn't sure what happened. Moving on to slide 9. So we're willing to plant whatever trees are necessary to replace it, so there's no negative effect on the tree canopy in the city, and or pay in lieu of planting if we have to do a combination. We're happy to do that. We've cleared an area in our backyard to plant a tree and have already selected a linden or a maple tree, pending if we were to receive approval. As parents, I'm sure you can understand, we really want to put our children's safety first, which is why we're willing to incur the cost to take the tree down and put a new tree up and all of that. And we really want to be able to provide a safe entrance to our house for anyone who's coming and going from our house. We would not want anyone to injure themselves or worse from the stairwell and the walnuts. Finally, moving on to slide 10, if this tree was on city property near a large, steep staircase, I mean, we think it most certainly would be removed to ensure no one tripped and fell and sustained injuries or worse. It would just be too much of a liability to have there. So we feel the same it being on our property. Finally, we know that urban forestry has a big reluctance to remove this particular species of tree for fear of setting a precedence. This tree is really uniquely placed in a location that I really think is unlikely to appear again in a subsequent case. It's very close to a steep concrete staircase of 18 stairs on a steeply sloped small front yard. Finally, our last slide, slide 11, our question to council is the city prepared to put a tree's welfare over the welfare of its residents? And furthermore, is the city prepared to put the safety of a tree over the safety of children? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the deputy? Councillor Bradford.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Melody, for the deputation. Appreciate that. And read the letter and the presentation there prior to your deputation. So thanks for walking us through it. Appreciate that you've explored a number of options for treating the tree. I was wondering if you had a chance to have an arborist out to look at pruning back the flowering areas of the tree in particular. So I know there was the something that you could treat the tree with, which would minimize flowering, but the feedback you got was that wouldn't be very effective. Wondering, and our staff had suggested pruning back the tree over the area where the stairs are to minimize the flowering there.
We did. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, we did. It's Rahel Dulos. We did consult with, good morning. We did consult an arborist. Their concern was basically access to the tree, which is due to its unique location, close proximity to the stairs. And again, it's right on the verge of a slope. There's no real safe place for them to anchor a ladder to access the upper branches of the higher canopy of the tree. There are crossing hydro wires very close as well, so even having a cherry picker would be problematic unless they're willing to take down wires for our house, neighbors' houses to have access to the upper canopy of this tree, which is again considerably high above the top of the house. So there are some odd limitations for that.
Did they talk about potentially climbing it with like tree climbing gear, rigging, going up and removing? The staff here had suggested up to 15%.
Had been
by
the arborist or had been recommended by their consultation.
I'm sorry, I missed that last part. I'm talking about, I know that like a cherry picker would be difficult, but I have seen and know that arborists will like climb the tree and remove limbs as a pruning exercise. I'm wondering if they had contemplated that.
No.
Okay. Okay. That was just the staff, when I emailed staff and talked to them about this, that's what they had suggested.
Right.
Okay. Well, thanks. Thank you very much for the deputation. That's all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members who want to ask questions? No? Thank you so much for your deputations then. I have no other deputants listed. Are there any questions of staff? Seeing none, Councillor Bradford to speak.
I'd like to move the staff recommendation to deny removal.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. All right. Where does that take us? Oh, this next one's mine. This is the one I have the motion, right? Yeah. Okay. So item TE 15.8, residential demolition application 2 through 6 Humber Hill Avenue. I have listed Marley Levine. Marley, are you with us?
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can, Marley. You'll have 5 minutes. Please speak slowly and clearly so we can understand what you're saying.
Great. I really just wanted to make myself available for any questions. This is an application for a demolition of 2 to 6 Humber Hill Avenue, and it sort of goes hand in hand with item 10, which is 3775 to 4005 Dundas Street West. We have a development application underway in which we're working through with city staff on the site plan approval process. And the demolition is critical at this time as we are delivering affordable rental units with this project and accordingly working through the open door program with the city as well as the federal CMHC program. And as a condition of the CMHC financing to allow us to deliver this affordable housing, it's critical that we proceed with the demolition and subsequently allowing us to complete the required environmental work. And so at this time, it's critical, it's a really critical path item for us to complete the demolition in order to be able to deliver this much needed affordable housing. So that's really all I had prepared to say, but I'm available for any other questions about the application.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the applicant? Members, I'm going to suggest, no. Should I do them together?
Well, they're two separate items.
They're two separate items, okay. Somebody who is connected to us is typing, and we can hear you typing. Okay, are there any questions of, oh, aren't you looking a little red-faced? I can see that. Okay, are there any questions of the deputy? Seeing none. Okay, members, I have an amendment on the item. Okay, this effectively, on this part of the property, sets out the conditions for the demolition and also requires that prior to the issuance of the permit, the owner shall resubmit plans for the site plan application and then gives the number. This is to make sure that the applicant is continuing in good faith with the process before we actually print the demolition permit and give it to them. Okay. Any questions of the mover on that? No? Anyone else to speak? No? We'll take it all as one. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, next, TE 15.9. I have a deputant listed, Peter Jakovich.
Good morning, Chair, members of Council.
Hi, Peter. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to speak. Please speak slowly and clearly so we can all understand you.
Appreciate your time. I won't take long. Peter Jakovich, I'm an employee of Tribute Danforth Limited. I just called in to support the residential demolition application. We looked at the various options. We can live with the conditions that were spelled out in the recommendation report. And once again, sort of reiterating the speaker that preceded me, we're at a critical juncture on the project. Looking at it from a timing point of view, we're mobilizing demolitions to commence in July so that we can stick to the delivery of a tentative construction schedule, sort of working with staff for the delivery of a 27-story, 371-unit residential apartment building. And I'm just here for any questions that arise out of the application. This also coincides with 1511 on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions of the deputy? I don't see any. Any questions of staff? No? Councillor Bradford, you're up.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move staff recommendation number 3 in the report.
Okay. Does this achieve the same effect? Councillor Bradford, just to be absolutely certain, the motion you are moving is recommendation 3 from the staff report, not 3 and 4. Do I understand that correctly?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Yep. Thank you very much. We're just trying to make sure we're all getting it right here. Okay. So on Councillor Bradford's motion, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, which takes us to item TE 15.10, non-residential demolition application 3775, 3379, 3803, and 4003 through 4005 Dundas West. As was pointed out, this is related to, but not the same item as 15.8. Marley, do you have any further comments on this one?
No, no further comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the deputant? No. Any questions of staff? No. I do have a motion on this. Give members time to read that. It essentially lays out a number of conditions that the applicant has to meet before issuance of the permit. Okay. Any questions of me? Seeing none. Anyone else to speak? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. That takes us to item TE 15.11, non-residential residential demolition application 276, 286, 288, 292, and 294 Main Street. Peter, you deputed on item 9. Do you have any additional comments for this item?
Nothing further to add, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the deputant? I don't see any. Any questions for staff? I don't see any. Councillor Bradford, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move staff recommendation number 3 in the report.
Thank you. On staff recommendation 3, which is listed here as 1 because that's just how we do things, are there any... it's the third option, yes. Are there any questions of the mover? Could I see the panel, please? I see no questions of the mover. Anyone else to speak? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. That takes us now to item 15.12, refusal of a Boulevard Cafe permit application located at 796 Bloor Street West, Crawford Street flankage. I have no deputations listed. Are there any questions of staff? Don't see any. Councillor Layton, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. I have a motion that's to approve with a couple of conditions.
With conditions. Councillor Layton, we don't seem to have those motions here.
Let me check with my staff. It should have arrived yesterday.
Okay. It's possible we missed things. It's very complicated down here, at least for my little brain. Okay, what we're going to do then, if you have it printed, I will safely socially distance.
Yeah, but he said, except that he said give more conditions. So I think it would look like approved with conditions. So I don't know where this came from.
Okay. So, Councillor Layton, we don't have the full motion here with all the conditions, or if we do, it's in the wrong part of the system. Could you have your staff resend that?
Doing that now.
Okay, very good. Item TE 15.13, refusal of a Boulevard Cafe permit application located at 2261 Queen Street East, Hammersmith Avenue flankage. Are there any questions of staff? I don't see any. Councillor Bradford, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. I know that we deferred this previously. The applicant was hoping to go knock doors and talk to residents adjacent, but COVID has made that challenging and they haven't been able to do it. So just a motion here to defer until September 15th meeting, and hopefully they have an opportunity to do it then.
Okay. On the motion to defer, all those in favor, if I can see the panel, please. Just keep your hands up for a second. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. So I believe that takes us to an item of new business. Is that what's next? I just did.
I beg your pardon,
we did 14 at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, and 17 we need to go back to Councillor Bradford.
Okay, so members, we will now go to item TE 15.17, which we held for Councillor Bradford. I'll just give the clerks a minute to get to the right item here. Are there any questions of staff? Councillor Bradford, you're muted. Councillor Bradford, you're muted. There you go. Are there any questions of staff? No? Oh, you've muted yourself again. It's torture.
There's like a delay on the button hitting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm off mute, and I'm just saying apologies. I understand that I don't need to move a motion to expand notice, which is all I was trying to do at the beginning.
Very good. Very good. So we'll just take the staff recommendations then?
That's right.
Okay. On the staff recommendations, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Did we handle 15-18 yet? 18 is done? I was told there was one. We just did 17. Just one moment, please. We had a piece of new business submitted. Display would be fine, yeah?
That's great, thanks, Rosemary.
So members, I need a motion to introduce item 15.30, which is coming on your screens right now. Traffic control signal at, I lost it. Dovercourt and Davenport Road. It's a letter from Councillor Bailao. I'm going to assume Councillor Bailao is moving to introduce it. All those in favor? I can't see the panel. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Councillor Bailao, would you like to move?
Move the recommendations in the letter.
Okay. All those in favor of the recommendations in the letter? Any opposed? That carries. I would say talk amongst yourselves, but you can't.
Can we all comment on Mike Layton's beard some more? It is a lumberjack.
I texted him earlier.
The clippers have arrived though, so if you have a vote about how it should be styled, better get it in soon.
Yeah. Josh, you got some work to do to catch up to Mikey over there.
Josh has been clipping neatly all along. You could take a few lessons from him, Mike.
I think mine needs to be a little bit more lumberjack than Josh, but probably not as far as I've gone.
Maybe
Different strokes for different folks.
I have no idea how the clerks are going to minute this discussion.
Be careful when you shave it.
New item, Councillor Layton's beard.
Yeah.
You should let the two girls, let Chloe and Phoebe each get like 2 snips.
Sure. Yeah,
See how
sure.
that works.
That's a great idea.
Councillor Layton, I'm sorry to break up all the fun. Councillor Layton, the clerks are still waiting to hear back from you. They sent you some advice or a query. Have you decided how
So
you?
I sent it in an email from my account just minutes ago.
Okay, let's just see what's in the system.
I'm not moving to refuse, though. I'm moving to approve with some conditions.
Okay, give us one moment to see if we can sort that out. Where?
Just display.
Okay. It seems like the different battle stations have to email each other because the one that displays doesn't have access to the email account that the one who determines whether or not it's in order. We'll just take 1 second. They're forwarding. Yep. No, we've got it. We've got it now. We've got it. It's just a matter of which workstation has access to which email account. Okay. Councillor Layton, if you could just glance at the screen and see if this is what you want us to consider.
It is.
Okay, very good. Members, if you could take a moment to read it. So on the item, sure, go ahead, speak. Yep.
If I may to introduce, we received the petition after 3 months, 4 months of deferral, or maybe 6, yesterday, which is perfect timing for us to put this motion forward and welcome Benjaras to the patio family.
Are there any questions of the mover? If I could have the panel, please. Are there any questions of the mover? I don't see any. Any other members to speak? I don't see any. On Councillor Layton's motion, all those in favour, opposed, that carries. So does that complete our agenda? We just have the bills?
Yes.
Okay.
I think she just updated them, so I just need to...
So we're just updating the bills now because of the decisions we've just taken. Members, for those of you who haven't been present in a committee room, and I'm sure Councillor Delisle can verify this, the clerks have an enormously complex task managing call-ins, access to the TIMIS system, access to the motions and the emails that are coming in from the public. It is really quite a remarkable thing to watch them get it all done. While staying 6 meters apart. And sanitizing a lot. It's honestly like this is a clean room probably for like sterilization purposes.
Are you going to read them both?
If I can just, to make things simpler, I'll do the bills.
Yeah, and that's that.
So members, I would like to move that the Toronto East York Community Council pass and declare as bylaws bills 409 to 411 and 414 to 416 prepared for the June 18, 2020 meeting 15 of the Toronto East York Community Council. All those in favour? Opposed? That carries. Next, I move that the Toronto East York Community Council pass and declare as a bylaw a confirmatory bill to confirm the legislative proceedings of the Toronto East York Community Council acted under delegated authority at meeting 15 on June 18, 2020. All those in favour? Opposed? That carries. That completes our business. Thank you so much, members. That was very successfully done.
Been a slice. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Bye now.
Thank you to the clerks and to you, Mr.